All right. This is Karen Lindwall-Borg, the president of the National Association of Christian Women Entrepreneurs, and we are, it's May. I can't believe it's May. I'm going to get us started, hopefully with a bang. It always is best if I start at the beginning. But just to kind of introduce you to our themes of the month and our speakers for this month, and then we will introduce ourselves and be on a roll with our guest speaker today. So let me make this bigger. I usually don't, but we decided a year and a half ago to talk about entrepreneur wellness through almost the whole, at least 9 or 10 of the months of 2020 as an ACWI team. And we're marveling and praising the Lord that it was such an appropriate topic for a time like this. After all of our coronavirus or COVID-19 crises we're still kind of in the middle of and just barely thinking about coming out of, it's been so apropos. And I've appreciated that and praised the Lord for that so many times. It's brought us new people. It's brought back oldies as well. And we're just grateful, grateful, grateful. So the month of May, we're going to focus on occupational wellness, all surrounding your livelihood, your business, your ministry, just any of the work that you do. Annette and I are cattle ranchers. It even encompasses doing that well and as unto the Lord. So it encompasses a lot. We use the acrostic beliefs from the book Wellness, the Awareness of the Whole Individual. And we actually jumbled the letters up a little bit because we started out in January talking about entrepreneur wellness. We topped off February talking about spiritual wellness because we felt like we knew as Christian women entrepreneurs that the spiritual aspect of our lives should be the umbrella under which everything else operates. And I love that about us. Pat us on the back. Then we talked about physical wellness, emotional wellness, and now we're talking about occupational wellness. And we will talk about intellectual, environmental, family and friends, or social wellness. And then we will have our conference in September where we're talking about working God's way. So kind of back to occupational wellness at that time. Loving the way it's all kind of coming together. I don't know what we're going to do next year. We need to start asking God for that plan as well. I love the verse in Colossians 3:22. It's actually the last part of it. Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. And I think if we remember that and invite God into every teeny tiny aspect of the business or ministry He has given us, we will be we'll find so much joy in it. For one thing, that's been kind of a theme of the last month in the emotional wellness month. And we will please Him with our work, and He will use us to touch the lives of so many other people, which is what we're here for. What we want you to do, let me give you a few more. This should come at the end. I'll come back to this, or I'll put it in the chat room for you as well. We do want you to take 1 minute. We'll ring a bell and we'll cut you off at 1 minute to introduce yourselves. Come in, tell us your name, where you're from, and what's your primary goal for May. I should say May. I should get Danica to look at these before I put them up. And then what's been the most challenging business or ministry adjustment during shelter in place for you? And what do you foresee as the most beneficial business and ministry result after sheltering in place is over? And we want you to tell us out loud if you want to. You don't have to, it's optional. But we do want you to type all of this into the chat room for us and then save the chat room at the end of the meeting, because then you have connections with everybody that was here today. And we know how to click a button in the chat and find you. And that's very important. So here's the lineup for the month. So today we're going to hear from Jasmine Tosseth-Smith. I hope I pronounced that right. Jasmine, you can correct me when you come back in. She's one of our NACWI team members. She is your spiritual coordinator, and she is going to talk to us. So we had her lined up to do all sorts of really creative things to teach you, and we're going to do it, I promise, to teach you how to use Canva more efficiently, to teach you how to Zoom through your Zoom room more efficiently. We'll bring her back almost once a month over the next year to do some specials for you, because that's her thing. She's a tech guru and can pretty much go find out whatever you need to know about whatever you need to know. And so we've promised to bring her in to do that. And we were going to start with Canva today. So I apologize to anybody who popped in thinking, I want to learn everything I can about Canva, because instead she has created this S.T.E.P.S program for navigating any crisis. And I'm an alliteration and a acrostic kind of fiend. And when I saw it, I said, oh no, you have to talk about this for now, and then we'll bring the other pieces in. So just watch your NACWI calendar. It's everywhere. It's in like 5 different places. And watch for those, and we'll make sure we do everything we can to make sure you know about those. So that's what she's going to talk to us about today. When we post the replay, there will be a really cool handout, a really beautiful handout, and very succinct. I love that about you. Handout. And then we'll also, if she'll allow us to, we'll PDF her slides, and we'll post her slides as well. So you'll have everything that you ever wanted to know about steps for navigating crisis, but we're afraid to ask. It'll be right there at your fingertips. So next week is NACWI's 10th birthday. Diane started NACWI May 11th, 2010. And so on May the 12th, in our normal Tuesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time Community and Education webinar, we're going to do a 10th birthday bash. And Diane and I will be there. We're trying to bring in a couple of our coaches that have been very instrumental in helping NACWI grow. And we'll also bring in a few of the NACWI Elite members to bring you, we hope, 10 free gifts for NACWI's 10th birthday. And so as you can imagine, if there's 10 people in there and you guys all introduce yourself, each of those 10 people is only going to have 3 minutes to say, you know, this is what I've learned. This is what I love about NACWI. This is what I've learned about entrepreneur growth for Christian women entrepreneurs. And here's my freebie. Here it is, here it is, here it is. If the file thingy won't work again, we will put them all where you can, we'll just make sure we collect email addresses. We'll put them on a web page where you can grab them. We promise. And then, because there are obviously more than 10 NACWI Elite members, and they've all been kind of responding saying, I want to do this, I want to do this, we'll probably do 10 again next month, and we'll do maybe 10 again the next month until we've kind of gotten everybody who actually really wanted to do this with us, given everybody a turn. So you're getting ready to be inundated with freebies like crazy because we're 10 years old. Then we're going to hear from Beth. She's in the room today. And Danica introduced us to Beth because Beth's parents were Danica's mentors. So it's all a big family affair. She's going to teach us about not selling and the secrets of success. Diane used to say, in fact, in the NACWI classroom right now, there's an entire webinar called Sell is Not a 4-Letter Word. So y'all, if you're elite members and you have access to the classroom, you'll probably want to pop in on that. Maybe we'll draw that out for you. And then the last week of May, we're going to hear from Elizabeth Hancock Zacharias. I asked her to talk about servant leadership. So badly needed right now. You are leading. Whether you admit it or not, or want to admit it or not, you are leading. People, probably more people than you realize, are looking to you for leadership at this time. And we should be leading as Christ did as a servant. And so she'll talk to us about that. And then we have a May through July bonus, which is the PDF program. My goodness, the prices for the PDF program are supposed to have tripled actually, and they haven't, because the buttons keep not being ready. Not a team member's fault, totally my fault. So I'll give you the link to that, and if you want in before next week, May 11th, when it all starts, this is the day, or this is the week to get in, because that button won't exist anymore. And the price, it's actually a little bit more than 3 times the price, probably about 4 times the price. I'll have to do the math. But praise God when things don't go well, because you get into the program. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Next month, we're going to talk about intellectual wellness. Last year, when we talked about this, I was blown away, because as a biology major, I'm very interested in the neurobiology of our brains and things like that, but it's still not something that I've studied very much, but I thoroughly enjoy it and really enjoyed it last year. So Danica, we might ask you to kind of pull some things forward from the classroom about that from years before as well. Especially one of the ladies who taught us was, it's like Irene or Inez. I'll have to go look it up. I can't believe I've drawn a blank on that. So the PDF program, what we've done is we used to have a mastermind. I used to have a mastermind called Making It Happen. And then we had another one called Profess or whatever. So we changed the names of all of them and we've combined them and brought them together for you. Mainly because one of the things we did that was the smashing success was work through a plan before we worked through a marketing program for the plan. And we had such success with that. And we realized also that first we needed to pre-plan. So we've learned to pre-plan, really focusing on what God's called us to do. And then we also realized that there are some follow-up activities that really needed to happen after this marketing push, because there's always a little cleanup, things you need to abandon that really didn't work for you, or you need to bring in that really did work for you or should have worked for you, or you need to do more of, etc. And we weren't doing that. So now we've pulled it all together. It starts next week. We've just spent 4 weeks doing, someone called it a speed round, and it was very successful. I thought people would be frustrated because there's too much information all at once, but we really worked through it and it was very successful. And it's all in there, replays and everything in the group and handouts and everything for you if you join the group and want to get a head start before next week. Not going to go through all of this because I kind of just did. And we'll put this in the chat room because you're never going to see that number again. Pat me on the back. Let me pray us in and go back to, and put this in the chat room as well, to how to introduce yourself. So, because people are always like, what was that? What do I need to say? And if you get it all, fine. And if you don't, fine, that's okay too. Let me pray for us. Father God, we're so excited. We're so grateful that you brought us to, way before the crisis happened in our world, you brought us to talk about being well. And it's so important that we be well in all dimensions of our lives. And we're grateful that this month we get to talk about our businesses and ministries. We've been doing that already anyway, but this time in a little more concentrated manner. We ask you to bless Jasmine as she brings a message to us today, and our birthday bash next week, and Beth the week after, and Elizabeth the week after, with the words to say. And we ask that all of us presenting would just have a ton of fun in the process, that new friendships, friendly relationships would be forged as we go along, because that's what makes our world go round. And to see other Christian women entrepreneurs succeed and excel is such a blessing. So we just pray over this month, over every presenter who'll come before us, over every freebie, every handout, everything that gets put out there for our fellow Christian women entrepreneurs, that it all blesses others, but more importantly, that it brings you glory and honor every single step of the way. People are drawn to you in their business and ministry endeavors every step. And we ask these things in Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen. All right. So let me put, okay, Danica put it in their name, location. What's your goal for May, and what's been your most challenging, and what's been your most beneficial part of sheltering in place? And you also want to, Danica, add that we want a link to find you. It doesn't matter what link you want to put. If you want to put your website, if you want to put your Facebook page, it doesn't matter. I've spent way too much time of Jasmine's time, so let me shut this down. And y'all come in really quickly. You can type in the chat room as well if you don't want to come in face to face, but come in really quickly and introduce yourself that way. Now I see everybody here. Good to see you. It's a great group. Quick.
I'm Danica Diva. I'm the education coordinator for NACWE, which I love. So glad you're all here today. And I think I just love reconnecting with people that I'm seeing, friends on Facebook, learning Zoom and things like that. And I think the hardest thing is not having a coffee shop to go right in, but I have found a few trees in the neighborhood. And I live in Lynchburg, Virginia, and you can find me at danicadiva.com.
We lost Annette. I hope she pops back in because it's good to see her. Somebody else?
I'm Angela Halford. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. My business is furthermoreliving.com, and my desire and dream is to help people to unbox and unleash their gifts, because God has gifted us as women and men, and everyone has so greatly gifted us that I just want to see us just unleash it all for the Lord.
Anyone else?
I'll go. I'm Kathy Gifford, and right now I'm doing a Thursday doodle all the day, and we're learning to doodle together and draw. And my passion and my purpose and my calling is to teach people at every age that you're never too old to learn, and you can learn on your own. And I can help you learn how to do that and teach others how to do that.
I need a doodle all the day of tutor. I'm in the slow class. But still, it's been fun. I kind of needed to put pen to paper and, step outside the comfort zone and that sort of thing. Anybody else really quickly? And we'll bring Jasmine in. Or type it in the chat room. That's fine too. And save the chat room so you catch up with people later.
I'll go. My name is Beth Schrock, and I'm an accessory stylist with Premier Designs Jewelry. I've been doing that for 17 years, and I love helping women accessorize and learn how to put an outfit together, which is so important during this Zoom time when most of us are probably wearing pajama bottoms. And then throwing on a cute top, and if you put some accessories with it, it totally brings the outfit together, makes you look professional, and nobody knows that you have PJs on the bottom. So I love helping women feel confident and knowing that the Lord has made them exactly how they're supposed to be, and just to enhance that beauty that He has already put inside of us. So you can find me at blingwithbeth.com. And I'm an extrovert, if you can't tell already. And I've been having a very hard time with that, sheltering in and not being able to go and see people, and my love language is hugging, so not getting that hug, it's been very hard for me. But I have loved the time that I've been able to have with my kids. I have one going into middle school next year, so I need to have as much time with her as possible, and time with the Lord, and just growing in those relationships, because I've had to slow down. So
awesome. Can't wait to hear from you in a couple of weeks too. Yay. All right, you guys, I'm gonna, hey Jessica. So you guys, I'm gonna let Jasmine just roll with it. Are you ready, girl? I'm gonna mute me, but Danica and I will kind of alert you if there's a huge question that needs to be. You guys are gonna need paper and pencil. We tried to upload the beautiful handout in the room. I'll try it again, but it didn't work, as far as I know. It worked for me. I can see it, but nobody else can see it. I'll try one more time, but Jasmine, you are on. Thank you so much for doing this for us. I know you're getting ready to move, and this probably is bad timing for you, but I appreciate it even more.
Thank you. And actually, it keeps yelling at me about my internet connection. So I emailed you my presentation. So I guess, I'll do my introduction and stuff, but just let me know when you get the email. I sent it to you in PowerPoint form, not Canva, so it should be. But okay, so hello everybody. My name is Jasmine Tosseth-Smith, and I am glad you guys are here. And so I will be talking about the steps to navigating crisis. Why is just because I've been going through my own crisis lately. The last, few months, my life completely blew up in my face. Well, my life as I knew it. And so I've been having to walk out this process of trying to figure out, not only try to figure out what's next, but also almost like learn how to grieve what I've lost and learn how to do that well, and learn how to navigate the landmine of kind of thoughts and feelings that crop up as I try walk this thing out. So that's why. So yes, the next few presentations will be a lot more in line with what I do in terms of being a digital media strategist, but all of it is just near and dear to my heart. I'm just grateful that we are never in crisis or out of crisis. We're never boxed into just one thing. God didn't create us to just be one thing and one thing only. We're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly learning and growing. And so we can be these amazing, just beautiful, multifaceted expressions of who he is in and out of season, or in and out of what we determine are our seasons, right? Because his seasons not always the same as my seasons. So and then, oh, what happened? Okay, there we go. Just let me know when you have the presentation. I think so just
So
a little
I
bit
do, but are you saying you want, I do
I
have
can't
it.
share it on my laptop, so
Oh.
I'm live on my phone.
So, okay, I'll share it. Got it.
Yeah, so I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, it keeps kicking me out. It's like, I don't know. So I just, yeah, I refuse to be held down by it. So we'll just work around it. Yes, thank you. He thinks he's slick. Okay, so let's do slide
You'll just have to
2.
tell me when to move.
Okay, so slide 2. Yeah, the next one. Yep, that one. So just a little bit about myself. So I am the founder and editor-in-chief of the Everyday Crown Rocker magazine. It is an online magazine for Christian women. And the goal is to uplift, motivate, encourage, support, and equip women in co-creating with God lives that matter. Danica has been in the magazine, and actually I will announce here she's the cover girl for the next magazine, so I'm kind of excited for that. I shall not reveal it yet, although she has seen it, but that's exciting. I'm also a mother. I have a she's almost 20-year-old. I've got 2 sons, and then I have a grandson, and my granddaughter is due in September, so I'm excited for that. And then, as I had said, I'm also a digital media strategist at Crown Rocker Digital Publications. The goal is the same. Basically, I love to tell stories. I like to tell his story. I like to tell our story collectively as Christian women. And I love to tell brand stories. So that is that. So let's move on to the next slide. So today I'm going to be talking about S.T.E.P.S. And S.T.E.P.S is an acronym. And so I kind of summarized it into, so S would be for stop, T for take it, E for evaluate, P for partner, S for start over, and I will explain that in detail. So we can go to the next one, which is first step. So when going through a crisis, it can feel like your world as you know it is upside down. Your routines are upside down. Sometimes your relationships have been turned upside down. Business, if you're in business for yourself, if it's something to do with a job loss, a lot of that just feels like it's off kilter. Like, what just happened? I was just walking along, minding my own business. Boop, here I am. And I think a lot of times our initial instinct is to keep on going, like, okay, well, let me figure this out, let me sort it out, and just keep going. But the first step really is to stop. It's to stop and take the time to embrace that it is a process. You have to take some time out to just be quiet with yourself and just be like, okay, you know what? This sucks. Like, I am going through something right now and I need to figure it out. But when we keep just that constant grind, that constant going, and we don't take the time to stop and really evaluate where we are, you don't always have a good sense then of where you are. And if you don't know where you are, it's much harder to figure out where you're going. Also, when you are moving, and this is in crisis or out of crisis, but if we are so busy doing, we often miss what God is saying. We often miss that it is indeed a process. And when we stop, we get the chance to be quiet for long enough to see the process from His perspective. We get to see what we're going through through His lens, through the lens of what He's doing through whatever it is that we're going through. And those are things that we can't do if we're not still, if we're too busy thinking about the next thing, trying to check off the next thing on our to-do list, just trying to keep moving while we're going through this crisis. It's really, it just makes it take longer because we're not taking the time to really stop, look at where we are, sit with God and see, like, okay, what are you doing in this process? And also I say to stop and embrace that it's a process from the point of view that a process is not instant, right? A process takes time. And so it's also about stopping to give yourself grace and to allow yourself a moment to feel, like, to just feel the feels, right? To give yourself grace to stop and be like, this is not something that I'm just going to get over in 24 hours. And that's okay. It's something that's going to take me, a week. It might take a couple months. It might take a couple years to get through the entire process, but it's okay to look at it and to handle it as the process that it is, step by step by step. We can go to the next slide. So in the same vein, you need to slow down, think it through. That way you can equip yourself for the journey and put together an action plan. So that is step number 2. So you would slow down and really just think it through, like what is happening, and just let yourself feel it. I think so often we're so busy, we have to-do lists that are so long that we just want to just keep going, and we want to get over feeling what we're feeling, and we want to get over thinking what we're thinking and just get to the other side. And there are times when things happen in our lives that we just cannot rush through. And so taking that time to slow down and actually think about what we're going through and navigate what we're going through helps us it helps us look for what tools and what strategies do we need in order to put this plan together. So equipping is, in this case here, I'm talking about like the tools that you need. What resources do you need? Do you need, there's, things that you can do for yourself. So for example, one of the exercises that I love and that I teach the boys all the time is the mind exercise. So basically what we do when they're up, it's usually when they're having like a heightened emotion of some sort, is that we go through the simple process and I walk them through. I say, okay, my feelings are mine. My feelings are mine. My feelings are mine. And then we do the same thing with my thoughts are mine. My thoughts are mine. My thoughts are mine. And we also do actions. My actions are mine. My actions are mine. My actions are mine. And we repeat that until they get to a point where they're not so crazy. But that, even just that, is a simple, it's a technique where you can slow yourself down, remind yourself that your reactions, your thoughts, your feelings in this situation are yours, and that you have a decision, that you have a choice, and that you can decide how you feel, what you think, and what behavior that elicits. So, but that happens from slowing down. You have to slow down long enough to use your tools. So like that's a great one. I use that one again with the boys, but I use it myself. Like there's times when things will happen and I have to just say it to myself internally, but just taking the time to slow down and use that tool and use that strategy helps me put things into perspective. And then it helps me work from a place of like where I have a better plan and where I can put together a plan instead of just being frantic, not taking the time to do a simple exercise. And then I'm like, what's happening? Okay, so we'll do, you can move on to the next slide, which is brain drain. So the next step, so this will tie into, into the next one. So by brain drain, I mean, we think about, there are 4 areas that we think about all the time. Okay, we're constantly thinking. We have millions of thoughts in and out, in and out, in and out all day. And all our thoughts, 100% of our thoughts are centered around these 4 areas. So faith and spirit, love and relationships, health and wellness, and wealth and finance. So either, so faith and spirit, meaning our relationship with God, that, prayer time, Bible studies, devotions, just talking to him on the go, attending church, thinking about church, volunteering, all that stuff is included in that. Love and relationships, as it sounds, would be our relationships with other people. So friends, family, colleagues, co-workers, clients, the president, like just anybody. It's our relationships with all of our relationships, no matter how close or distant. Health and wellness would be, things like, oh my gosh, I need to lose this 30 pounds, or man, I need to eat healthier, or, I didn't drink my water today. Did I get my exercise today? Did I get enough sleep? Wealth and finance, again, if you own a business, it's, how much income am I making? Am I meeting my goals? Will I be able to pay my rent? Can I make my car payment? So things like that fall into that category. So if you think about it, even if you just want to think about it for yourself and write down, like the 4, like create 4 boxes with each of these as the heading and start to track your thoughts, you'll see just how much time you spend thinking in each of these categories. So in crisis, it's the same thing. This is why we want to slow down, because you want to do this brain drain in terms of understanding for yourself what you are thinking about these areas. So for example, if the crisis is a divorce, for example, right? You will be thinking things like, well, how does this affect my finances? How am I going to make up the difference? So financially, you're thinking about things like that. How will I get to work? If you only had the 1 car. Health and wellness, you might find yourself emotionally eating, or suddenly that sugar addiction flares up, right? And anything that's sweet and sugary, you're putting it in your mouth. Or maybe you don't exercise as much. Or for some people, they go the opposite route. And maybe all of a sudden you live in the gym, right? Or like eating healthy to like obsessive levels. For love and relationships, obviously, if you're going through a divorce, the big one is, well, you know, my spouse. But then you're also thinking, what about my children, right? How am I going to help them process through it? Where will we live? What about our friends? You know, if you have mutual friends, like, okay, so who's siding with who? And then faith and spirit, same thing. It's bringing that divorce to God, like, you know, either like, I don't understand it, or why is this happening, or man, I'm so mad about XYZ. And also just bringing it to him, like, I need you to help me fix this situation, or help me feel better, or you know, so that type of thing. So that's why I say you kind of want to do a brain drain. So if you're going through a crisis, and I have done this for myself, is to write each category in a square, and then just write my thoughts, just raw, unfiltered. I don't think about, why am I thinking that? At this stage, I just write it all down, what I'm thinking about in each category. Okay, you can move to the next slide. And then once I have done my brain drain, I like to say, I think, what? That's what it sounds like in my head. So that's how I wrote it on the slide. But after I do my brain drain, I'm usually like, what? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I wrote down so much stuff, and what? Like, what am I supposed to do with all of this, right? So it just works out that it's a great acronym for this. But after your initial brain dump, a good practice, especially through crisis, when you're trying to navigate it all, is there's going to be so much just emotional stuff that you're dealing with. And in order to not feel overwhelmed and not to be consumed by all of those emotions, it helps to write them down. It helps to take note of them and to be intentional about it. Because it is craziness during that time. So these are questions that I bring these questions to God. So I will do my brain dump, and then I seek God on it. Like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And we know biblically that we are to take our thoughts captive. And so in my mind, that also means taking the thoughts and writing them down is also me taking them captive. Like, I'm paying attention to them, I'm taking note of what they are, and I'm writing them down. Then once I have done that initial just purge, then I bring it to God with these questions in mind. Some questions won't apply to every single category, and some will, but I sit down, literally, sometimes in the sun when the weather's good, and I say, okay, God, so what? And like, what? And I think about this just for myself, but I do this process with God. So in my mind, I visualize we're sitting next to each other, in the kitchen, at the coffee table. He's on one side, I'm on one side with my notebook. I have my coffee. In my mind, Jesus drinks tea. I don't know. Okay. But he's got his tea. Okay. I've got my coffee. Sometimes we got cupcakes or muffins. It just really depends on the level of crisis. Okay. Sometimes I'm like, God, I got to bring out the cake. Okay. But in my mind, then I sit down, we sit together face to face at the table, and I say, okay, what is going on that is making me feel this way? So what is happening? So usually for me, the first thing that will come up is obviously the circumstance. Like, what is happening? You're getting a divorce. Okay, I write that down. But the reason I am sitting and having coffee is to have a conversation. So I will also stop and ask, like, okay, that's what I'm seeing from my perspective. But what are you seeing? What is going on from your perspective? What is happening why am I feeling like this? Like, what is causing me to feel this way? But I know from my own human eyes what I see, and I've written that down. But what do you see from your perspective? And then I write down what I hear him saying, which goes back to what I was saying, is that you need to allow yourself permission to slow down and be like, this is a process. Because when you go through what, you start to see, or God can then reveal to you the process. So a lot of times, you know, even with the what situation, and I've stopped to ask him, there's been times that he's been, sometimes it's been very lovingly, and you know, there's no condemnation, but sometimes it is something that I caused or something that I did, that he'll lovingly highlight. Like, okay, remember this happened, you did this, you made this decision and this choice, this is why we're here. Sometimes that what could be, the answer to that is him saying, this is not even about you. Like, this is indeed the circumstance, but this is not about you. What is happening is not about you. And so I ask these 5 questions. So I'll sit down, I'll ask what, I will ask why, I will ask where, I'll ask who, and I'll ask how. Now, who is, I don't want to say it's a little bit like, I guess when you ask who, and this is why I say to make sure that you have this conversation with God too, because who can be tricky, because then you could start to blame your circumstance and your situation on somebody else. Now, yes, there are times when somebody did indeed cause, you know, is part of that, but you don't want to get to a place of bitterness. You don't want to get to a place of like wanting revenge, but you also don't want to get to a place where you are so, where you put everything on them and make everything about them, and then you miss the work that God is doing in you, or you miss the changes that he's creating in you. And then the how, and also the who, asking the who with him, with God, sometimes can reveal areas that you need to work on, because it is possible that, you know, the who, you know, something like, for example, if you've had trauma in your past and you've been trying to avoid that trauma, and then now you get in the situation where you're getting divorced again, and you're like, why am I here again? He may highlight that, hey, it's because we have to process, work through, and I need to help you have victory over this thing that happened when you were 16. Like, that's the actual who that has led us to here. So you definitely want to do this this questioning phase in partnership with him, because he will reveal things to you that you didn't know, but he also always does it in such a loving, comforting way that it very truly takes the weight off of you. Like, it really, and it gives you a chance to just be honest and vulnerable and be like, God, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, right? We can move to the next slide, which step 3 really is throughout the whole process, but I have it as seeking kingdom first, taking it to the cross, engaging the help of others, and proceeding with purpose. So that's what we've been talking about. Seek kingdom first, and everything else will fall into place. There are times when your step is literally just you on your face, just ugly crying. Like, I'm talking about ugly Kim Kardashian crying, right? Like, just let it out, no holds barred, snot running down your face, like just ugly crying, just pure honesty. And the thing is, God knows what you're thinking and feeling. He's not unaware. But I tell you what, if you are looking for release, if you are looking for breakthrough, if you're looking for power, you have to speak that thing out. Okay, there is power in your testimony, there's power in your words, and there's power in speaking it out. God didn't just create us on autopilot. Like, we're not just robots in his army. So yes, even though he knows what we're thinking, he knows what we're feeling, he's wanting you to come to him and give him and verbally sometimes, and sometimes it's in the form of just a cry, like just a gut-wrenching sound that comes from just your belly. But he wants to hear that. He wants you to, with your own mouth, give him permission, right? He wants to hear you with your own mouth, like just surrender and just hand it over, right? It's not that he's unfeeling or uncaring before, but he knows that there is freedom in you speaking it out. He knows that there is power in you speaking those thoughts out. He knows that when you use your mouth to come to him and say, God, this sucks. This makes no sense. I am mad and I want to punch somebody in the face. That gives you release from what it is that you're feeling, because you've taken it captive, you've taken it to the cross, and then you can leave it there. But if you, which he does hear you, but when you just think, oh, I'm not even going to bother talking to him about this because he already knows, you have just short-circuited your breakthrough, not because he doesn't hear you, but he wants to give you release through your own voice. He wants to give you release through what you say. He wants to give you release through the testimony of your own voice. Now, in those moments, through navigating crisis, the testimony of your own voice is a testimony between you and God, but you have heard it. You have heard it with your own ears, in your own voice, saying, God, I'm giving this to you. And I'm giving it to you as your daughter seeking her father, the king, because I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't like it. But I do know that I can bring it to you. And when you hear your own voice say that, there's a release that happens, right? When you hear your own voice say that, you release power from heaven. When you hear your own voice say that, you know that your daddy's got his armies coming for you, right? It's just like the story of the Israelites walking around Jericho, right? And then they shout and the walls fall down. This has also been scientifically proven. But what made the walls fall down is the vibration of that multitude of voices, right? And so a lot of times we read and we see that faith can move mountains, and we want the mountains in our lives to move. I am a living example that your mouth to God's ear is the fastest way to make that happen. If you, and God is a big God, especially in crisis. He knows you've been knocked to your knees, right? What is important is what you do while you're down there. So Hannah is one of my absolute favorite women in the Bible. And the strength and the power in her story, to me, like, you know, as it relates to navigating crisis, is that she did not stay and wallow or stay in her self-pity. She took her mess, she took it raw and direct to the feet of Jesus. Jesus wasn't here yet, but she took it to God, right? She didn't mess around, and she was so honest, so open, so truthful, the priest thought she was drunk, right? And we have been, unfortunately, for some, the church teaches us that we're being disrespectful when we pray open, honest, broken prayers. We are not being disrespectful. That is our Father. He's a big God, and he can take it. And it's very different when you're coming to him like, God, I am your daughter. I don't understand this. I need your help. That's a very different posture than coming like, oh, God, this is your fault. I don't know why you would do this to me. So yes, you do want to come correct, but you want to come, and you want to come just in all of your rawness, right? I mean, just gut-wrenching raw. And he is probably the only person that you can ever be 100% like just open and honest with, and his door is open. He just wants you to come through, let it all out, and he will give you a big bear hug, kiss you on the forehead, and say, don't you worry about it, baby girl, I got this, right? It doesn't mean that instantly things are different, but I tell you, instantly your perspective is different, right? Instantly in his arms, as he's holding you, you feel, okay, so my external circumstance hasn't changed. However, let it be on earth as it is in heaven. So my earthly external perspective hasn't changed, but my internal perspective has aligned with the perspective of heaven. So now I can fight my battle with his strength at work within me, but from the perspective of heaven. Because I am a daughter of the King, I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. So when we seek first and when we take it to the cross and we engage with him on an intimate level like that, that's the power we're releasing. We're owning who we are as daughters of the King. And we are starting to align our internal reality with the reality that is heaven. And then an amazing thing starts to happen. Mountains start to move because you are aligned with the power that makes everything and can change everything. But also because you have declared out of your own mouth, the vibration of your talking to your Father is causing the walls to come down. Now, those could be emotional walls. It could be mental walls. It could be financial walls, but the testimony of your voice with your Father is what brings you victory. It's what brings you your breakthrough. It's what brings you closer and closer and closer. It's what makes you in the middle of your crisis say, you know what, I count this all joy. Not because everything's, happy, right? Like I'm still going through it, but I count it all joy because I have experienced heaven in a different way. I count it all joy because my God has shown up for me, because I have seen my God not only as the promise giver, but as a promise keeper. And now I'm looking at my situation from the perspective of heaven. And so I'm looking at what is God doing in me and not what is happening around me. You can move on to the next slide. Actually, move on to step 5. So step 5 really is talking about partnering with, so seek help along the journey, take plenty of deep breaths as you execute and navigate the pitfalls along the path. So partnering, this is why you want to seek first and partner with God, because he will bring you help along the journey. So physically, in your reality, you will see women, you will see strangers in some cases, you will see your children, you'll see your friends rise up and help you along the path. You will see people rally in your defense. Suddenly, if it's, financially, if that's the issue, God, by partnering with God, he will partner with other people to sow seeds of blessing into your life to meet that exact need. He has the ultimate network, of people. And so once you come to him, you seek him, you speak it out your mouth, heaven and earth will move on your behalf. So while he is, getting physical resources into your hands and people into your hands, heaven is moving too, right? Your Father is the King of heaven's army. So best believe, if he is maneuvering real life people to help you out, he is maneuvering his angels around you too, that you may not see them, but they are at work on your behalf because of him. And so you want to stay in that place, but you also want to partner with God and also partner with like-minded people to help you and to support you along the way. It's crazy, like, I mean, truly just, and I mean, I've known this obviously about my friends, but I tell you what, after spending all that time just, and I still do it now, but just face down with God, to see his hand move has been exceedingly abundantly more, to the point where, like the U-Haul guy gave me really, when I worked it out, gave me a $700 discount. Like, who does that? Right? That wasn't anything I did. That wasn't because of anything I am, but it was because I took authority as the child of the king, and I brought my mess to him. And I said, God, I don't know, I don't understand it, but you do. And so I partnered with him so I could start to see through his perspective and be like, you know what, he's got this. So even, being obedient to when to go to U-Haul, what to ask, when to speak. Like, he told me for real, like, listen, shh, you just keep quiet. Let the U-Haul dude speak. Okay. You just zip it. So things like, but it comes from that time that I spent just pouring it out to God, like, God, I need your rescue. But then you see him move, and suddenly things happen. Suddenly don't suddenly happen. Okay. Suddenly happens because you have spent time in God's presence. Suddenlies happen because when you are navigating a crisis, okay, and you are down on your knees and you are with God at that kitchen table or at that little garden table, okay, and you are doing nothing but just sitting there with him, he is partnering with his angels, and they are getting stuff done and getting stuff lined up. You just don't see it. So you feel like, oh my gosh, I spent 2 days in bed doing nothing but talking to God. But I tell you what, that U-Haul suddenly started with being in his face and just seeking him through the crisis. So final step is so after you've done all this, then you can stand back, exhale, try again, and pick up where you left off. It just stopping and taking the time to understand your process, being intentional about what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and then bringing all of that to God and sitting with him and asking him all the questions, and speaking it out of your mouth, that's what leads you to your victory. That's what leads you to your breakthrough. And then you start to see what he is doing within you. You start to see who he is creating you to be. You start to see what he's purging, what he's highlighting, what strengths he's developing, and also just what, his mercies that are new every day, and his goodness that just keeps on coming. And you get to experience him in a much different way. And that's what gives you then the strength to try again and to pick up and to keep on going. And, even out of crisis season, I mean, just stay in his face, like just stay pros with him. Like, I tell you what, I don't know, in my visualization, I don't know how much tea Jesus has drank, but he's all up in the chamomile teas, like all the herbal teas. I just tea bags and tea, I don't know. But then I feel guilty, like, oh, but I'm drinking coffee. But then he's like, don't worry, it's cool. So I think we're okay. But just spend time there. Like, you should have like your visualization of time with him should be littered just with notes and sticky notes, and just have conversations with him. Ultimately, in crisis, out of crisis, that's what God wants from us, is relationship, right? And if it takes a crisis to build that relationship, count it all joy and don't let go of that relationship. I think, yeah, okay, you can move to the thank you slide. But that is basically my steps to navigating crisis. So how to just do it, some practical tips, and also how to do it with God, which is how we should be doing it. But God is a practical God. So, you know, he has tools and resources that are practical that help us along the way. So if you guys want to follow me, you can find me on Facebook, and I put it on the slide too.
So also the website is theeverydaycrownrocker.com, right?
Yep. Yep.
So let's put that in there before we go. And let me just say, I'm going to let you do that, Danica. Can you do that? So I have meetings on Tuesdays from sun up to sundown, dark 30. And some people were in this room that I'm meeting with this afternoon. And I'm done. Girl, we're done. I could stop right there. I had no idea where this was all going to go. I got a little sneak peek at the slides, but oh my goodness. And so I'm going to say this in public too. I've never been in a church where the pastor was a woman, but if you ever decide to pastor a church, I want to know about it. I will be in South Dakota or North Dakota or wherever that place is that you are, because that was preaching. And I hung on every word, took my breath away. We're going to transcribe this one. I'll send it to you, and you can tweak it as you wish and then send it back to me. But oh my gosh, I mean, that was just so what I needed today. I'm sure God will bless the rest of the meetings of the day, because it's what was lined up beforehand, but I could live on this one for a while. So the pressure's on, Beth. I don't know if you feel it. And Elizabeth's not in here, but I'm telling you, rise to the challenge, we will. But still, I appreciate it, Jasmine. And I think, so one, if you guys ever get to sit across the table from her at dinner, please do so, but be ready to have your napkin, because she's hilarious. And I mean, this was serious stuff, and you still kind of brought in this. I mean, I thought, how do you spell that? Zip, zip, zip. Don't talk. I will talk for you. I love that story. I want you to tell that story in depth in the NACWE group somewhere. Yeah, Beth may make me even more nervous, Karen. We will rise to the challenge now. But she's hilarious. The Crown Rocker magazine is top notch, really kind of over the top. So if you haven't, and it's still free right now, right? Not for long, but I mean, it shouldn't be free from one coach to another, but y'all should grab it while you can. And while it is free, you don't have to pay for subscription. I'm thrilled to have you here, and thrilled to see some new faces, and thrilled to see some old faces. This is what makes my world go round. I don't know about y'all, but I think my world will go round a little smoother now that you've charged me to bring it all to the Lord and not hold back. So God bless you. We're going to close out here. We will repost the replay. I think I might even repost. I never post the chat rooms, but in this case, you need to see that this thing was blown up like crazy. The difficulty is, Danica, can you save the chat room? Because if I save it, it's going to save private messages to me, and we don't need that. So
I have it saved too.
Okay, thank you. If you'll send your version to me, that Kathy, probably your version would be better, because I think there were some privates going to Danica too.
But
Okay.
I'm co-host, so I'll have the
Yeah, co-host. So Kathy, yeah, send us yours. This time I never post the chat room. I just ask you to save it before we go out, and we're posting this one. There's just too much good stuff in there, girl. You just went up a notch. I don't know what else to say. So I'm going to pray us out. Father God, what an amazing hour. I am so grateful that we asked Jasmine to speak this month, and that she changed her topic, because I don't think that the topic of cruising through Canva would have been quite as powerful as taking the steps we need during a crisis to bring ourselves before you. This was amazing information, Lord. I pray that it sticks with us, especially the acrostic always helps, that the replay works, that the technology worked, that we're grateful for that, because she said her internet was unstable and mine was too for a few minutes there as well. So we just are grateful, Lord, for this message. What a great start to focusing on occupational wellness this month, and in September again as we come together for our conference here in Texas. I cannot wait. I just pray blessings over her, Lord, because we know a little bit of what she's going through, that she didn't ask for it, and that her preaching to us today is not only a testimony to how great you are, but to how willing she is to surrender even in moments of extreme crisis. So we pray blessing over her boys, CJ and Kenny, over her extended family as well, over her move, over the Crown Rocker everything, website, magazine, the audible one too now. How exciting is that? And just ask that you would expand her borders, Lord, and provide for her and these two sweet boys way beyond what she's asking for and way beyond what she expects. And we ask these things for all of us as well as entrepreneurs. May all we do please you. We ask these things in Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Deep breath, save the chat. Oh my gosh.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We loved having you in there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jasmine.